When I went for my prenatal checkup at 5 months pregnant, I ran into a former colleague from my previous company. She smiled and asked, "Your belly is so big, does Mr. Marcus know? It's normal for couples to have arguments. You should hurry back and get married to Mr. Marcus. Mr. Marcus is Daniel's best friend, and he was also my partner in an arranged marriage. That year, at our wedding ceremony, he publicly reneged on our engagement, then turned around and proposed to his childhood sweetheart, Olivia. He even put my wedding ring on Olivia's finger, and I immediately tore off my custom-made wedding gown. I swore I would never see him again in this life and decisively went overseas to pursue my doctorate. Before we continue, please subscribe to this channel and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from." My colleague continued. Mr. Marcus had no choice back then. He and Olivia never officially registered their marriage, and he even said that if you go back and get down on your knees and apologize profusely to Olivia, he'll register your marriage with you and redo the wedding. In modern society, he actually wants to marry 2 wives. I scoffed, "No need. I already registered my marriage half a year ago, and the triplets I'm carrying just reached 5 months. My colleague, surprised, relayed the news to Marcus, but he still thought I was conspiring with my colleague to deceive him. No way. It's been so long, Grace, you've become quite witty, and you still love to joke with me. Emily, my colleague, forced a smile. Seeing my calm expression, which showed no hint of joking, her eyes darted nervously, and she awkwardly took my hand, then began recounting past memories, trying to prove her suspicions were correct. Mr. Marcus used to be truly wonderful to you. Imagine a wealthy scion cooking for you personally. I curved my lips slightly, not refuting her. Emily became even more convinced that she had hit on my hidden thoughts. She transformed into a judge of emotions, holding her head high and speaking with excitement. "You have no idea. I once saw Mr. Marcus in the office wearing your high heels and getting laughed at by those old executives. He just smiled and explained that your feet hurt when you wore them, and he was breaking them in for you. And that pink diamond ring he gave you, worth hundreds of millions, it made all of us women in the office so envious. He's such a good man, it was just a mistake any man could make. Grace, you shouldn't hold on to it." After listening, I didn't show the regretful expression she expected. I smiled faintly and said, "It's all in the past." Memories of Marcus now vaguely replayed before my eyes. When I was little, he was like Daniel, an older brother who cherished and loved me. After we grew up, our 2 families arranged an engagement, and he became my undeniable fiancé. We would fall in love, as simple as if it flowed naturally. But all this understanding and smoothness shattered when his childhood sweetheart, Olivia, returned to the country. That night, it was pouring rain, and Marcus, who was supposed to pick me up from work, was late. I stood downstairs, watching colleagues get picked up one after another by their boyfriends and husbands. It wasn't until I was drenched from the rain that Marcus finally appeared in his car. I joyfully rushed forward and opened the passenger door. A girl, with a small cashmere blanket covering her legs, a sly smile playing on her rosy lips, looked at Marcus with an innocent, pitiful gaze and said, "I'm cold." Just 2 words. Marcus, who had always doted on me, immediately frowned and glared at me with displeasure. "Go sit in the back." Having never suffered such humiliation growing up, my eyes instantly welled up, and I slammed the car door shut, refusing to get in. I thought he would be like before, taking my exclusive small cashmere blanket, wrapping it around my shoulders, and gently comforting me. But this time, he didn't. Time ticked by second by second. The engine roared to life. Marcus didn't spare me a single glance, stepped on the gas, and drove off with the girl. The mud splattered by the wheels drenched me. I trudged home in the rain, soaked and miserable, only to learn from Daniel. That girl was Olivia, Marcus's childhood sweetheart. She had just returned to the country today, and Marcus had been delayed in picking me up because he was going to meet her. That night, I came down with a high fever, continuously calling out Marcus's name. "Daniel, worried about me," called Marcus. This time, he arrived quite quickly. I groggily opened my eyes and saw Marcus's flirtatious eyes filled with deep concern. "Who told you to be so stubborn? You wouldn't even sit in the back, and now you've made yourself so sick," he complained incessantly. I didn't want to listen to his nagging, so I turned over, facing away from him. Marcus closed the door and slowly walked to the bedside to comfort me. "All right, my sweetie, don't be angry anymore. You're my rightful fiancé. There's no need to be jealous of my married friend." I quickly turned to face him and asked, surprised, "Olivia is married?" Marcus nodded seriously, then added, "She won't be staying long after she returns. She'll go back soon." I hope you two can become good friends for my sake, alright? My face instantly darkened. What kind of good friend nonsense was that? Even if Olivia was married, her expression in the car yesterday clearly showed she saw him as her possession. I ignored Marcus, pulling the covers over my head and curling up. When I woke up the next morning, the space beside me was cold, as if no one had been there. Anxiously, I ran downstairs barefoot to ask Martha, the housekeeper. She said Marcus had received a call last night, then rushed out in a hurry and hadn't returned yet. I was furious. He didn't stay by my side all night, showing no intention of apologizing. I quickly got ready and drove to the company, inn. Tending to confront Marcus. Unexpectedly, as I reached the door, I heard Olivia's feigned whine from inside. Marcus, look how much these high heels hurt my feet. And they're supposed to be H&M Luxury brand's latest model. Since you gave them to me, why don't you wear them to stretch them out a bit? Alright. Marcus readily agreed, then playfully teased her. You're truly a demanding princess. The two of them were flirting in the office. I stood at the doorway, feeling as if I had been plunged into a block of ice, cold from head to toe. When I came to my senses and was about to rush in and question them, I heard the sound of the doorknob turning inside. I instinctively recoiled, not daring to charge forward. I had no choice but to squat and hide behind a vase. Marcus came out wearing high heels and ran into the senior executives who had just finished a meeting. A group of pot-bellied men in their late 40s and 50s burst into laughter. Mr. Marcus is quite the charmer, walking out in Grace's shoes. Oh, Mr. Peterson, you're mistaken. This is a private moment between husband and wife, don't you understand? Marcus's eyes twinkled with a fond smile, and his tone was doting. Yes, Grace said these shoes were a little tight, so I'm stretching them out for her. Besides, doing little things like this for your loved one is nothing. As he spoke, everyone present began to praise him. Squatting behind the vase, tears continuously welled up in my eyes. The shoes weren't mine, and the person he called his loved one wasn't me either. What part of him truly belonged to me? After their laughter subsided, the crowd dispersed. I raised my hand to wipe away my tears, then stood up and rushed in front of him. Come with me. Marcus looked bewildered as I forcibly dragged him to the break room. My voice caught, tinged with a sob, as I choked out the question. What exactly is your relationship with Olivia? It's bad enough you wore her shoes, but you claimed they were mine and F. Rant of outsiders. Seeing that I wouldn't let it go, a flicker of impatience crossed Marcus's eyes. He reached out to help me sit down and then handed me a soda. Sweetie, you must be thirsty. Drink this soda first, and I'll explain everything later, okay? He used a coaxing tone, like he was comforting a child, even though I was an adult. Just like he used to handle me every time I threw a tantrum. But he had long forgotten that I have sensitive teeth and had given up carbonated drinks for over a decade. As brought the soda closer to my hand, my heart ached more with each inch. I couldn't take it anymore. I took the soda and slammed it violently onto the floor. Bang! The loud crash on the floor enraged him. Marcus, with a darkened face, didn't back down and stomped on the soda can, crushing it. The soda sprayed all over us, like our shattered love. The successive loud noises caused colleagues from the office to rush towards the break room. Marcus sighed, rubbed his nose, and opened his mouth to speak to me, but no words came out. What's wrong? Olivia, wearing Marcus's oversized leather shoes, scurried in a hurry. Her gaze flickered between Marcus and me for a moment. Then she turned and took my hand, gently trying to persuade me. Oh, dear Grace, are you upset that I'm wearing Marcus's shoes? If you are. Before she could finish, I abruptly pulled my hand free from hers. In an instant, Olivia seemed to lose her balance and fell straight to the floor. By the time I reacted and tried to reach out to pull her up, it was too late. Olivia fell to the ground, her hand scratched by the edge of the soda can. I froze in shock for a moment, then wanted to bend down and help her up, but raised his hand and harshly slapped my face. I clutched my stinging face, watching him squat down, tenderly help Olivia up, and shield her tightly behind him, as if he feared I would harm her. Marcus glared at me and said sharply, "Apologize to Olivia." No need, Marcus. Dear didn't Maya. And it. The two of them, huddled together, were putting on a show to condemn me. But I had been pampered my whole life and never suffered such humiliation. Smack, smack, I raised my hand and slapped Marcus twice. Braving their astonished stares, I strode out. After I got back, I didn't want to tell Daniel and my parents about being hit, so they wouldn't be sad. I casually made up an excuse, saying I wanted to break up with Marcus and call off the engagement. Daniel stroked my head and patiently advised, "Grace, you can't be so impulsive. As long as Marcus hasn't committed a fundamental mistake, he can change. There's no need to take it to the point of breaking off the engagement. I turned to my parents, and both their faces showed troubled expressions. My anger immediately subsided by more than half. I understood Daniel's meaning. Calling off the engagement involved the cooperation between our two companies and stocks. It wasn't something that could be simply cancelled. I nodded silently and walked heavily upstairs. Daniel's helpless sigh came from behind me. My parents, worried about me, specifically texted Mr. Miller to request leave for me, allowing me to recuperate at home for half a month. Mrs. Miller, hearing I was upset, sent someone to deliver all sorts of the latest clothes, shoes, and bags, so many they could cover an entire bed. But I just stared blankly at these items. Mom couldn't bear to watch. She sat next to me, gently patting my back as she tried to persuade me. My sweetie, you and Marcus have been squabbling for years, and you've always gotten through it. Just overlook this minor issue. My eyes reddened as I looked at Mom. I silently said in my heart, but, his heart, his very being, he's given them to another woman. How can I tolerate that kind of issue? Mom reached out to wipe away the tears from my eyes, when suddenly she heard Martha calling from downstairs. She hurriedly opened the door and ran downstairs. In no time, the door closed. I rested my head on my knees, not looking up, and said, Mom, I've made up my mind. I'm breaking up with Marcus. I don't want to marry him. In that case, who should I apologize to? And who should wear the engagement ring I bought? A steady voice spoke. My heart trembled, and I turned to look. Marcus, holding white roses in one hand and the pink diamond ring in the other, knelt and slowly moved inch by inch towards me. Grace, I'm sorry. I was too impulsive and lashed out at you without understanding the full situation. Please forgive me, all right? As he spoke, he knelt by my bed, intending to put the ring on my finger. I swatted his hand away and turned my head, ignoring him. Marcus's eyes showed frustration as he helplessly explained in a soft voice, I was just too worried, which made me act irrationally. I'm sorry, Grace. I truly wronged you. With that, he forcibly pulled my hand and slapped his own face hard. He slapped himself more than a dozen times, leaving my palm red. This time, he gently took my hand and carefully blew on it. I'm sorry, Grace. I forgot that actions have reactions. If you hit me with your hand will hurt too. Seeing him so humble and pathetic, I softened for a moment and quietly replied, It's fine, it doesn't hurt. Marcus's eyes immediately lit up. Afterward, it was like our usual playful arguments. He swore and promised to love only me and keep his distance from everyone else. I smiled and threw myself into his arms, telling him I forgave him. But after this forgiveness, my heart still felt strangely empty, as if I had missed a crucial piece of information. Marcus said the reason I felt he didn't love me was because we didn't spend enough time together. He wanted me to move into his villa to strengthen our relationship and build trust. I nodded and agreed, casually packing a couple of outfits to bring over. That night, he tucked me into bed, saying he had work to do in his study. I obediently agreed, but tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. It wasn't until 2 or 3 in the morning, when I was incredibly tired and finally drifting off, that the bedroom door opened. I closed my eyes, feigning sleep, and heard several footsteps by the door. Marcus deliberately lowered his voice, She's asleep. Go quickly and just take a fingertip blood sample for testing. Another unfamiliar male voice, his tone conflicted. Marcus, are you sure you want to put your and Olivia's embryo into Grace's womb? Marcus's tone was impatient. Olivia's husband is infertile. She's afraid of the pain of natural childbirth, and a C-section isn't suitable for her. She can't bear the risk of carrying a child, so the only option we have is for Grace to carry it. After speaking, he impatiently urged, Go quickly. It'll be difficult once she wakes up. All right. My fingertip was pricked, and the pain made me frown tightly. Marcus, still uneasy, quietly asked, Let me confirm again. If the test results are fine, we can arrange the embryo transfer surgery on the night of my wedding with Grace, 1 month from now. Yes. Marcus received the definite assurance and said good 3 times in a row. I didn't even need to open my eyes to know how happy he was. But my heart, like my fingertip, was bleeding. After the blood collection, the door was softly closed. 5 minutes later, no sound came from outside the door. Only then did the tears at the corners of my eyes dare to fall freely. Marcus actually loved Olivia so much that he was willing to ruthlessly sacrifice me. So, all his overtures and displays of affection towards me over the years were fake? Was he just pretending to get along with me? The first rays of morning sunlight streamed in. I woke up, ate breakfast as usual, and made an excuse that I wanted to go shopping. I quickly contacted a detective agency, asking them to investigate Olivia and Marcus for me. Less than a week later, I received an appointment from the agency. It turned out Olivia was the daughter of the Miller family's housekeeper, and at the same time, Marcus's childhood sweetheart. The two had a brief romantic relationship during their school days, but back then, it was thwarted by Marcus's parents. Later, Olivia studied overseas with the financial support of Marcus's parents, and after graduation, she successfully married a local and stayed overseas. However, after marriage, she couldn't have children and was frequently abused by her husband. She had sent Marcus several distress messages in between, the most recent one being last year. He immediately flew there on a private jet that very day. Tears blurred the printed surveillance photos. They showed Marcus holding Olivia and kissing her at an intersection. The time was 12 p.m. on September 26 last year. That day happened to be my birthday, and also the first birthday after we publicly announced our relationship. Marcus, as the leading man, never showed up, and I held the cake, waiting until late into the night. I calmed myself down and told the detective in a flat tone, "You've done a great job, but I need more evidence of them together recently. Please put in more effort to follow and photograph them." "Alright, I guarantee I'll get it done within 15 days. Time flew by. The wedding venue. I saved the prepared photos and documents onto a USB drive and handed it to the MC. Accompanied by the wedding piano music, Daniel walked me down the aisle, his face solemn, and placed my hand in Marcus's. Marcus happily stepped forward to take it, but I suddenly pulled my hand back. I turned to look at Olivia, sitting in the audience, her eyes red as if she had just been crying. I motioned for the MC to hand me the microphone. Marcus, confused, tried to persuade me to complete the ceremony first, but I stopped him with a raised hand. "Before the wedding begins, I'd like to invite everyone to see some photos." As I spoke, the projector screen behind me flashed on with a bang, and images began to play. Why, the expressions in everyone's eyes first showed bewilderment, then turned to disdain as they looked at me. I was puzzled. Shouldn't they be looking at Marcus and Olivia? "Dear, I know you don't like me, but there's no need to rub salt in my wounds like this." Olivia, her face streaming with tears, rushed onto the stage and accused me word by word. Marcus glared at me fiercely and shouted, "Grace, get down on your knees and apologize profusely to Olivia." I couldn't understand what was wrong. I looked up at Daniel and my parents, and even my own family looked at me with expressions of disgust. My heart full of doubt, I turned to look at the large screen, and in that instant, I froze, utterly stunned. What was playing on the screen were not the photos of Marcus and Olivia's intimate moments that the detective had taken. Instead, they were photos and videos of Olivia being violently beaten. At the end of the slideshow, there was even a video of her overseas husband threatening to divorce her immediately once she returned. "Why, dear Grace, why would you do this to me? I've already been abandoned, and you want to block my path to remarrying?" Olivia's tearful, heart-wrenching appearance made everyone in the venue show expressions of pity. I knew almost instantly that Olivia was orchestrating this, but I had no proof. Marcus, enraged, roared at me, "Grace, apologize." "I won't." I held my head high, refusing to give in. Olivia was crying so hard she was on the verge of collapsing. Marcus hardened his heart, took the diamond ring that was meant for my hand, held it up in front of Olivia, and knelt on one knee. "If no one dares to marry you, Olivia, then I will." After he finished speaking, the wedding venue erupted in chaos. Daniel anxiously tried to persuade him, "Marcus, let's talk this through. Have you considered Grace when doing this? If she makes a mistake, she has to learn to take responsibility for it." Marcus finished speaking, self-righteously, and put the ring on Olivia's finger. I scoffed. I tore my custom-made wedding gown to shreds and forcefully threw it at his face. I said disdainfully, "Apologize? Impossible. But punishment? That I can give." Hearing punishment, Olivia's eyes lit up. Marcus, on the other hand, looked a bit hesitant. Before he could say what punishment he wanted, I raised my hand, pointed at him, and spoke first. "I'll punish myself by never seeing you again in this life." With those words, I turned and walked out of the venue. I sent the compiled evidence of Marcus's affair with Olivia, one by one, to Daniel's and my parents' text message threads. I urgently contacted the family housekeeper and half an hour later boarded a plane to pursue my doctorate at a prestigious university abroad. Never again, Marcus. I just didn't expect Olivia's reach to be so extensive, enough to make the pilot land the plane in Africa. By the time I realized something was wrong, the plane had already taken off. In an unfamiliar country, I was almost trafficked into a red light district. Ethan saved me. He was a soldier in the peacekeeping force. Our souls aligned perfectly, and we quickly fell in love. In the African desert, the raging bonfire witnessed our wedding. When I found out I was pregnant, his term of service had just ended, and he retired and returned to our country. Grace, it's been so long since we last met. Why don't we take a photo to commemorate it? I paused for a moment, pulling myself out of my memories. Seeing the excitement on her face from having discovered astonishing gossip, I smiled and nodded. Right after we finished taking the photo, she received an overtime notice and had to quickly wave goodbye. Watching her retreating figure, I curved my lips into a smile and called Daniel. Yes, Daniel, I'm back in Coastal City. A luxury car convoy pulled up downstairs at the hospital. Daniel, looking excited, wanted to come forward and hug me. I quickly called out to stop him and pointed at my belly. Daniel's eyes turned bloodshot, and he cursed angrily, Marcus, that beast. I'm going to settle scores with him right now. I shook my head, explaining with a light laugh, it's not his child. I'm just carrying triplets, so it looks like I'm 8 or 9 months pregnant. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. Let's get in the car and go home first. I'll tell you all the details in the car later. Okay. Once in the car, I told Daniel the whole story from beginning to end. He clenched his fists, especially when he heard that Marcus intended for me to carry his and Olivia's child. And when I told him how Olivia had tricked me into being sent to Africa, where I almost met with harm, Daniel hugged me, his heart aching, and said, Don't worry, little sister, Daniel will definitely get revenge for you. I also learned from Daniel that the evidence I had sent them before boarding the plane had never been received. Heaven favored those star-crossed lovers, but I was going to be the one to break them apart. Back home, my parents were still at the company and hadn't returned. Daniel rushed to inform them, and also to expedite the termination of some contracts with Miller. With the servant's help, I walked upstairs. Pushing open the door, in the pink princess-themed bedroom, only the entire wall of display cases seemed out of place. The first row contained the toy gun and toy car Marcus gave me when I was little, which were his favorite toys. The second row held the storybooks he gave me, my favorites. The third row displayed the anime figures he collected. The last row showcased all sorts of designer jewelry he gave me after we publicly announced our engagement, including the pink diamond ring worth hundreds of millions. Take all these things outside and burn them. Yes. Watching the display cases being emptied piece by piece, my heart began to feel unburdened. Meanwhile, during a break in his meeting, Marcus received a photo of me with his subordinate. He excitedly abandoned his clients and rushed downstairs to the office area. He frantically found Emily and kept confirming, Is it really her? Is she really back? Emily, startled by him, nodded timidly. She got married. She's pregnant with triplets, and I ran into her during her prenatal checkup at the hospital. Marcus's eyes rolled back in shock, and he nearly fainted. After steadying himself, he couldn't care about anything else. He just wanted to find me quickly and ask why I had left him to marry someone else. Marcus hurriedly drove to my house and saw a smoky fire burning things outside the yard. In the glow of the fire, the pink ring box stung his eyes. I felt a bit stuffy staying upstairs, so I simply went downstairs to watch the servants tend to the flower garden. I was about to tell them to save a few good roses for flower arrangements. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of Marcus, his eyes red and his body stained with dirt, standing in front of me. Grace, why would you burn the pink diamond ring I gave you? He extended his hand, which was raw and bloody from the scorching flames. In his blackened, red-stained palm lay a glittering pink diamond ring. I frowned, suppressing the discomfort in my throat. That's a bit disgusting. Stay away from me. Marcus had thought that seeing his injured hand would make me incredibly heartbroken. He didn't expect me to be so disgusted. Grace, I heard you got married. Is that true? I felt a bit speechless and stuck out my belly. Are you blind? Can't you see this? Marcus saw my belly, and his eyes instantly filled with tears. I don't believe it. You loved me so much. How could you marry someone else and have children? Grace, do you know that by lying and deceiving me like this, you're trampling all over my sincere feelings for you? The more he spoke, the more agitated he became. Worried he might try to hurt me, I quickly called for the servants, who formed a human wall between us. Marcus's eyes, however, grew even more sorrowful and broken. Marcus, when you accused me of betraying you, did you ever consider how you treated me before? My tone was calm, as if I were recounting something unrelated to me. Marcus froze, then stared blankly and asked, Is it because I left you at the wedding to propose to Olivia? But you hurt her so much back then, embarrassing her. I had no choice. And what about me? Was I not supposed to be embarrassed? My words seemed to open up a different perspective for Marcus. He stammered, unable to speak. I scoffed, sat down in a chair, and looked at him mockingly. What, are you stunned now? You keep talking about how Olivia was, but didn't you ever consider that I'm also a human being who can get hurt and feel sad? Marcus shook his head and tried to approach me to explain. But the servants blocking his way warned him with their eyes, forcing him to step back. Grace, I apologize for the mistakes I made before. Every moment since you left, I haven't stopped thinking about you. Please, come back to me, all right? I frowned, looking at him, and asked, what about Olivia? She's the woman you were determined to marry, even abandoning your childhood fiancé at the wedding. Grace, please don't say any more. Marcus's eyes were filled with pain. He regretted it the moment he saw me tear up my custom-made wedding gown and throw it in his face. But because of a man's pride, he forced himself not to admit defeat. He didn't expect that after this farce, everyone would be mocking him. They laughed at his foolishness, abandoning a wealthy heiress from a family with close business ties to his own, only to publicly renege on his engagement and propose to a poor, twice-married woman. I felt a bit tired and didn't want to argue with him further. I waved my hand, signaling the servants to show him out, but caused a scene, refusing to leave. He desperately clung to the flower bed and shouted at me, Grace, please give me another chance. I promise I won't have any contact with Olivia ever again, and I'll never see her. Please, just give me a chance. I helplessly massaged my forehead. I'm married and have children now. Do you understand? Marcus shook his head, unwilling to accept it. I don't believe it. You must be lying to me. By the timing, your belly is so big, it must be my child, right? I sneered inwardly. His child? Those words triggered the memory of that night when he said he would transfer his and Olivia's embryo into my body. My face suddenly turned cold, and I spoke harshly to him. Marcus, I don't love you anymore. Let alone giving birth to your child. Even if I were pregnant with yours, I would have aborted it without hesitation. How could it possibly be here now? Marcus's mouth fell open in disbelief. He mumbled to himself, how could it be? Grace, how could you possibly think that? I rolled my eyes at him, speechless. He still clung to his stubborn belief, refusing to give up, and persistently questioned, so you said you're married. Where's your husband? Why isn't he by your side if you're pregnant? A string of questions, and I didn't know which one to answer first. During the brief silence, Marcus laughed loudly, as if he was certain deep down that I was lying to him. However, the next moment, he couldn't laugh anymore. A voice with an upward lilt and a rogue charm drifted into the yard. Her husband is right here. A man jumped out of the army green SUV. He strode up to Marcus and lifted him up like a small chick. I heard you were looking for me? Marcus struggled fiercely to break free from the man's grasp. I gave the man an annoyed glare, then introduced him to Marcus. This is who you've been asking about, my husband, Ethan. Ethan walked towards me with a free-spirited stride, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. He bent down, scooped me into his arms, and shouted joyfully, vacation's here. Time to be with my wife and kids. Marcus was blocked outside by the servants, only able to watch Ethan carry me back upstairs. I couldn't help but clench my hand into a fist and lightly punch Ethan's chest. You said you'd come back with me this morning. Why are you 2 hours late? Ethan carefully set me down, pretending to be in pain. Ow, ow. He looked at me with innocent, puppy dog eyes and whined playfully, well, returning to the country means a lot of things to hand over, and I also discussed partnering to open a security company with a friend. I was surprised. Ethan's family was quite influential in Northwood, and he had originally joined the peacekeeping force for his ideals. I remembered that when we were still in the ambiguous stage, he had said he wanted to rest for a while after retirement before thinking about his future. How could he have decided to open a security company so quickly? Thinking this, I casually asked. He smiled gently and reached out to touch my belly. Because I don't want my wife and children to suffer hardships with me. Ah! I exclaimed in surprise. The next second, Ethan pulled a black card from his pocket and slipped it into my hand. I want to start my own business and not rely on my family, but my wife and children shouldn't suffer. I specifically asked my parents for this black card. You can spend whatever you want. My heart was touched. I clutched the black card tightly and leaned my head against Ethan's chest. Initially, to join the military, he had a severe, almost irreconcilable falling out with his parents and had been estranged for years. Yet this time, for my sake, he even went to ask his parents for a black card. Ethan truly treated me very well. I had thought Marcus, having seen Ethan and me with his own eyes, would finally give up. To my surprise, he escalated his actions, constantly sending things to my house. Usually, they were valuable pieces of jewelry or antiques. I had the servants return them, but he refused to accept them. So I simply declared that I would smash everything he sent. It was quiet for a while, and I thought he had given up. Unexpectedly, this time, he showed up directly with a share transfer agreement, intending to transfer all the shares he held in Miller to my name. This time, Marcus wasn't wearing dull clothes like last time. He was in a perfectly tailored designer suit, which made him look incredibly distinguished. It was clear he had dressed with great care. Grace, that crude barbarian has been living in Africa all this time. He's not even from our world. Leave him and be with me. Marcus's expression was serious. After speaking, he knelt on one knee and pulled a brand new pink ring box from his pocket. He opened it to reveal the pink diamond ring inside. Its design was different from before, with many small diamonds added, making it look much more luxurious and opulent. Grace, please marry me again. I'm willing to give you everything I have, including all my assets and my life. I chuckled, looking at him as if he were a clown in a circus. Meeting his bewildered gaze, I stared back mockingly. I said, word for word, you really think I'm a fool, don't you? Marcus frantically shook his head, wanting to explain to me. I raised a finger to my lips, signaling him to be quiet. Then I dropped my smile and asked him with a cold face, didn't you feel sorry for Olivia because giving birth was too difficult for her, and you wanted to transfer her and your embryo into my womb? After you plotted against me like that, how can I still trust you, let alone marry you? Marcus's pupils constricted, and he slumped to the ground like a deflated balloon. I motioned for the servants to show him out. He stubbornly refused to leave, still trying to argue. I stood up, supporting my belly, and kicked the pink diamond ring on the floor towards his hand. When you were mocking Ethan, did it never occur to you why he, who's been in Africa for so many years, would meet me? My words were a wake-up call. Marcus looked up at me in shock. I looked down at him with disdain and continued, what I had originally prepared to reveal at the wedding were only intimate photos of you and Olivia. As I finished speaking, Marcus froze in place, as if struck by a dull thunderclap. I signaled the servants with my eyes. Marcus was dragged out like a corpse. Actually, what was revealed at the wedding could easily be discerned as not my doing, if one bothered to look closely. The detailed selfie photos of injuries, and the text message thread where Olivia's ex-husband said he wanted to divorce her, those screenshots were taken from her side. How could an outsider like me have gotten such detailed and complete information from her? Unless she had released the information herself. Too bad Marcus's heart was with Olivia at the time. How could he have thought deeply about it? That evening, Daniel came to me and said that all cooperation with Miller had been withdrawn. I nodded. Daniel hesitated, as if he wanted to say more. I interrupted him, speaking up. I know you and Marcus are best friends, but Daniel, the grievances between them and me can't just be easily swept under the rug. The harm they caused me won't disappear with a simple I'm sorry and my it's okay, returning our relationship to how it was before. Daniel shook his head and said softly, I mean, it's not convenient for you while you're pregnant. If there's anything you want to do, just tell me. There's no need for you to take risks yourself. I paused, a wave of warmth washing over me. I opened my arms and hugged him, mumbling, no, I'll handle my own affairs. Before, I hadn't acted against Marcus and Olivia because my company hadn't cut ties with Miller yet. Now was the time I could act without restraint. Then, I unexpectedly learned that Marcus had beaten Olivia, sending her to the hospital. I heard that after Marcus left my house that day, he immediately found someone to investigate Olivia's activities after she returned to the country. He even personally went to the hotel where we LDR wedding to check the surveillance footage. He discovered that, just as I had told him, Olivia had swapped my USB drive early that morning. The money used to bribe the pilot to send me to Africa was even charged on Marcus's secondary credit card. When he was so distraught he wanted to kill Olivia, the detective found out Olivia had contacted her overseas husband. She told him that after using Marcus's sperm to have a child, they would have a cash cow, enough to support them without working and live a good life. Marcus completely lost his mind, grabbing Olivia and pinning her to the ground, his fists raining down on her. Little did he know, Olivia's overseas husband was no pushover. As soon as he heard Olivia was hospitalized, he flew over from overseas and protested outside Miller with signs, demanding an apology and compensation. The scandal raged for months. Finally, Olivia left the country with a huge settlement and her overseas husband. Because of this incident, the Miller family's stock plummeted, and what was once one of Coastal City's top leading enterprises was now on the verge of bankruptcy. I was 8 months pregnant, the night before I was due to go to the hospital for delivery. Marcus came to see me. I refused to meet him and had the servants ask him to leave. He immediately knelt downstairs, declaring he wouldn't get up until he saw me. Ethan stood by the window, his fists clenched in anger. "I'm going down there to beat that scumbag to death." I quickly stopped him, whispering, "It's fine, it's just one meeting. You can come with me." Ethan's face was dark, his eyes full of reluctance. I gently shook his arm, coaxing, "Just 1 minute, please?" Ethan's gaze softened. Worried about the strong wind at night, he wrapped a thick cashmere blanket around me before helping me slowly walk downstairs. Marcus's expression became agitated when he saw me come out. "Grace, you finally agreed to see me. Everything that happened before was a misunderstanding, eh? And unavoidable circumstances. Please, let me explain." My expression was calm, and I nodded. He grinned happily. "Olivia and I were young and foolish back then, we shared a forbidden intimacy. Later, we broke up, and she went overseas to marry, but that foreigner resented her for not her first time and being unable to have children, always resorting to domestic violence. She had no other choice but to find me. I deeply knew it was my fault before, so I wanted to make amends to her. But my support for her was purely financial, and those seemingly intimate photos? They were truly just a matter of camera angles." Upon hearing this, Ethan was furious and swung a fist at him, but I stopped him with a glare. "So, because you feel guilty towards Olivia, you want me to pay for your mistakes?" Marcus silently lowered his head. I turned away, not looking at him again, and gestured for Ethan to help me back inside. That night, a heavy rain poured outside. The servants said Marcus was still kneeling out there. I said coldly, "If he likes kneeling, let him kneel." A month later, I successfully gave birth to 3 sweet daughters. The people I sent overseas also brought good news. Olivia had been abandoned by her husband, penniless and homeless on the streets. As for Marcus, the Miller family urgently sent him overseas when they went bankrupt and became insolvent. Less than 3 days after he landed, local riots and political upheaval broke out. Whether he lived or died, no one knew. I lay in bed, watching the 3 sweeties sleeping beside me and Ethan busily preparing milk at the table. A faint smile touched my lips. My happy life had just begun. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.